Is Jon Jones scared to fight you?
Yes, absolutely.
You like can empathize with that?
I respect it. I respect it. But if you're going to ask me the straight up question, is Jon Jones afraid to fight me? The honest answer would be yes.
Jon Jones behind the scene is not a guy that turns down fights.
In recent years, the UFC has seen fewer blockbuster bouts like Pereira versus Adesanya or Poirier versus Makhachev. However, the highly anticipated fight between Jones and Aspinall is set to shatter all records. According to UFC President Dana White, this fight will be not just the biggest heavyweight bout in UFC history, but the biggest fight ever.
It will be.
This matchup has all the makings of an epic feud, Bones' hatred, Stalker's relentless pursuit, and the fans' intense interest. Some believe Jon will finally punish self-confident Brit, while others call him a duck for dodging the fight. But the showdown is imminent, so let's dive right in. Don't you forget to subscribe, or Jon's gonna hold the belt for another year. Let's go! After Jon Jones mentally broke and submitted Cyril Gane in the very first round, Dana White became the happiest man alive. Regardless of the happenings in the heavyweight division, he wouldn't entertain any criticism of the new champ.
This fucking guy destroyed the best heavyweight in the division. Easily made it look like nothing. Jon Jones is the pound for pound best fighter in the world and the greatest fighter fucking ever. Period. End of story.
While Jon Jones basked in glory, the British fighter was on the mend from a knee injury sustained just 15 seconds into his bout against Curtis Blades in July 2022. Aspinall made a triumphant return 1 year later, securing a flashy TKO victory just over a minute into the first round. The Brit made another big statement, but in November 2023, Jones was set for his first title defense against the seasoned veteran and one of the greatest heavyweights in the sport, Stipe Miocic. But something didn't go according to the bald man's plan.
Breaking news from last night, Jon Jones out. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you found out and the kind of the process to make a new fight?
The guy came to fight. It's the first injury he's ever had. And listen to me. I'm not defending Jon Jones.
This is #1 bullshit.
How ironic that it was Jon who brought Aspinall closer to a title shot, because while Bones was healing from an injury and Stipe was extinguishing fires and aging, Tom's hype was growing by the hour. Ahead of their interim title clash, Sergey Pavlovich was still undefeated, with oddsmakers viewing the fight as very close and competitive. Both fighters had been smashing their opponents, leading many to predict a swift and explosive finish. Despite the Russian Bear's devastating knockout power, Tom Aspinall chose to stand and bang rather than take this fight to the ground. After absorbing a couple of bombs, Aspinall found his distance and unleashed his deadly signature move, sending the Russian Bear back to Siberia. After Tom became the UFC interim champion, a fight with Jon became inevitable, and the Briton began to speak seriously for the first time about a meeting with the GOAT.
I think we should do Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones in Manchester. That is something special, and I'm sure the UFC are going to be on board with that. That would be special.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Why not fight against Pereira, a guy who's the same age as you, and we walk around the same exact size?
And he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Jon, in turn, was in no hurry to accept the challenges of the young knockout artist, saying that the only thing that excites him and Dana now is Stipe.
He is the best to ever fight in a fucking fight, period. Ever.
Okay.
After UFC executives, particularly the bald-headed half of the company, declared that the bout between Jon and Stipe would happen under any circumstances, the promotion announced its first interim title defense in 11 years. The British finisher sought to avenge his frustrating L to Razor, providing Jon with another opportunity to avoid a fight with Tom if Curtis secures the victory. Ahead of the rematch, Tom was a big favorite, and as soon as both men stepped up into the cage, it was immediately clear why.
Maybe Tom deserves to fight Jon or deserves to fight Stipe, or maybe that's a better fight.
No. You do those two.
Aspinall needed just 1 minute to send Curtis to the Shadow Realm, making another big statement. You can run, but you can't hide. Since that exact moment, the Tom Aspinall era has begun, and no one could save Jon from what's coming.
Anytime, anywhere, doesn't matter, I'm ready to go.
And I just don't like him.
How often do you hear a third name during the promotion of titans like Jon and Stipe? Imagine the UFC investing heavily in promoting one of the year's most significant events, yet all fans and journalists seem to care about is, when will Jon and Tom fight?
It's disgusting.
This relentless focus has so frustrated Jones that he refused to give an interview to a British tabloid.
I have nothing personal against Tom.
12 seconds later.
But if I'm being completely honest, I feel like Tom's been such an asshole that I don't want to do business with him.
No matter what you think of Jon Jones, he's the best ever, and he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. And he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world.
With each passing moment, Stipe began to resemble Biden more and more, as cliche as it sounds, and even he wasn't spared from questions about Aspinall.
That's fucking illegal.
Majority of the MMA community eagerly anticipated the moment Jon would finally submit or pound Biden's face to the canvas, prematurely ending his reign. Both fighters slightly heated up interest in their bout with some awkward trash talk, but ultimately, the fight was one-sided.
And Jon Jones systematically fucking picked him apart. His fight IQ is off the charts. It is hard talking to people who 99.9% of the media don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to fighting.
Naturally, the main stalker of the MMA world was seated in the front row, anticipating that Bones would finally call him out. However, despite the victorious euphoria and the roar of the crowd, this did not happen. Nevertheless, Jones did not announce his retirement, leaving MMA fans hopeful that the fight might still take place in the near future.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
But you're a betting guy. Do you think you'll get back inside the cage in 2025 if we had a bet on that?
Yes, I will be competing in 2025, more than likely.
If you want to do it, you don't have to ask me twice.
After Johnny announced his intention to fight in 2025, Dana White didn't stay on the sidelines either. He hinted that despite his pure love for the American, Jones wouldn't get a Pereira fight without first facing Aspinall, a sort of love triangle.
He's going to be 38 years old this summer. He looked incredible. I just don't know how any of you don't see that this guy's the fucking greatest fighter in the history of fucking people fighting.
We have to check that, Mom.
Also, a couple of weeks after Stipe's execution, Dana claimed that big news coming soon towards Jon and Tom fight.
Would you guarantee 100% we see that fight?
Yeah, I'll say 100%.
While Jones was enjoying life after another victory, Tom continued his business, with each of his statements becoming increasingly direct, from the legendary ducking accusations to the pointed phrase, "I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him."
So remember what I said quite a while ago now? I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him.
But that's not the case.
Jon Jones rarely responded to Tom Aspinall's provocations, attempting to ignore him and acting as if the Briton was no different from his previous opponents, which greatly frustrated dedicated fans. However, whenever Jon made any statement, even without mentioning Hachiko, Tom was quick to record a response.
all the stuff that Jon Jones has been saying to the media this week, and I'm sure there's more to come, but check out these.
You're beating guys who aren't even champions, and you consider yourself a champion. He's not a champion.
So Jon said I need to fight more champions, but this is the problem I've got. Jon is the champion, and he won't fight me. And he says that he won't fight me because it's too much of a gamble.
Aspinall to me is no difference than an Owen St. Prude or Dominic Reyes or Anthony Smith, being like just another up and comer that's exciting right now. And I'm not into gambling my legacy for what's exciting.
And Jon, if you're not into gambling your legacy, that to me sounds like you're scared of losing against me.
The inevitability of this confrontation was further emphasized by Pereira's defeat, which will keep him in his current weight class for at least another 6 months, a development that clearly disappointed Jon. Meanwhile, Tom chased Jones even into Alex's Instagram comments, making Jon delete his own comment afterward.
I get to you guys, you find it entertaining, but I find him annoying. And I just don't like him.
Jon, let's do it.
In early April, reports from Ariel Helwani indicated that Jon Jones might vacate after breaking another record. Fans immediately labeled the greatest fighter in history a coward, accusing him of not only stalling the division for 1.5 years, but also of regularly changing his stance. One moment, he's ready to fight for big money. The next, he's relinquishing the title.
If I give him the opportunity to fight me, I want to be so compensated. I want to say it, I want that fuck you money.
Cocaine isn't cheap. It's expensive.
UFC President Dana White is confident that this fight is inevitable, stating, "I think it's probably the biggest fight in heavyweight history, and it's a massive fight in the history of the company too. When I personally talk about this one, I'm having goosebumps because I can't just imagine a bigger fight here and now. The auras of those men are unmatched, and what happens when they step up in that cage? The world literally explodes." Unlike Jones's other opponents, Tom Aspinall doesn't have obvious weaknesses, except for a previously injured and surgically repaired knee. He's proficient in wrestling, strong on the ground, and possesses the fastest hands in the heavyweight division, having the shortest average fight time in the UFC Octagon. Let me repeat myself. I'm convinced this fight is inevitable, and the UFC is already setting the stage for it. Jon will get his 6 months to prepare, along with a massive check somewhere in the 30 to 50 million euro range. On our channel, we've broken down this potential clash in several videos, and I highly recommend checking them out, because right here, right now, the wheels are turning behind the scenes. The UFC is warming up what could be one of the biggest fights in modern sports history, a matchup that could finally answer all the burning questions. Will Tom Aspinall be the one to dethrone Jon Jones and define his own legacy in the process? Or will Bones seal his eternal greatness by turning back what might be the most dangerous challenger he's ever faced? A sold-out Madison Square Garden will settle it all in November 2025. The wait is over.